Now, take a look at this if you're watching on YouTube. I'll try and describe for those of you listening on the radio what it is that some of us are instead seeing. Because this is an attack against Gail's Bakery in Archway in London. It has got horrible red graffiti written all over it. Threats, boycott Gails, funds Israeli tech, which is just a nonsense. Gails doesn't fund Israeli tech. But, you know, who cares when it's a sort of anti-Semite conspiracy theory? Boycott Gails for genocide. There you go. All the usual middle-class blimmin' women with their blue hair standing there. I mean, it's just, these people are ill. They're ill. They're believing such craziness. They need to get off their computers and maybe go sit in a Gail's and speak to other patrons of that coffee shop. But, Philip, you know, we've been getting used to this sort of stuff since the pro-Palestine marches, since two-tier policing, since the Southport riots. It's just becoming so normalised now. Not just in the United Kingdom either. This is happening in America, in Canada, in Australia, in New Zealand, across Europe. The rise of anti-Semitism. And I remember at one point thinking to myself, you know, growing up, and you learn World War II history, and, you know, I was fortunate to have wonderful grandparents who both fought during the war, and so we've got that generational connection. We know what went on. We heard it from the horse's mouth. And I always struggled to understand how the Germans, you know, a developed Christian nation, just like us, went along with all of Hitler's evil. You think, how does that come to pass? How do rational people, academics, doctors, lawyers, people of great intelligence, because it wasn't the working classes in Germany getting on board with the Nazis, it was the intelligentsia. And you think, how does that happen? And I'm afraid in the last week, from things I've been reading online, the attacks against me and things that people are now coming out and saying publicly, I'm like, that's how it happens.
That's how it happens. I think, I mean, we had anti-Semitism and terrible racism in the 70s, but that was different in a way. That was neo-Nazis and the National Front that were on the streets. The anti-Semitism that we have now is threaded through the institutions. It's the middle class, it's the upper middle class, it's thoughtful, it's framed in anti-Zionism, it's still anti-Semitism. They're talking about genocide there. That is a libel. That's a blood libel, because there is no genocide. It's simply not happening. The only people responsible for the deaths in Gaza are Hamas. Okay, that's it. That's simple. Now, I know a lot of Jewish people, a lot of Jewish friends. I live just near Leeds, and they are frightened. Alex, they're frightened of walking in the street. Many of my Jewish friends are thinking of leaving the country, and they are worried that they can't go anywhere in Europe because of all of this wave of anti-Semitism. They're looking to South America and places like that. Now, it's unprecedented. I never thought I would live to see the kinds of things on both sides. And the problem here, it's not just the left or the right, it's both sides, as you well know this last week. Okay, but just last weekend, what did we have? We had Jew hunts, people going door to door in Bristol, Sheffield, and saying, you know, knocking on doors saying, are you a Zionist, and noting it down. So we're having a database now. This is pure, horrible, nasty anti-Semitism. That's on the left. That's the Green Party. This is the Islamo-fascist.
And the Green Party
that is the Green Party.
Right, Green Party, who've been reported to counter-terror police for being a breeding ground for Islamist extremism, and they need to be looked into, because of course the legacy media aren't doing it. Oh, they'll platform Zach Polanski. No one's asked a single question about that Mothin Ali, the deputy leader. No, don't look there. The Greens are just lovely. They love hugging trees and, you know, rainbows. It is not true. They're sinister in some respects. But we are seeing... Sinister,
and they are campaigning in places like Gorton and Denton on a Gaza ticket. You know what I mean? So it is crazy. But the point I was just going to make before, Alex, it's not just the left, is it? Now it's the right, the very online right. We are seeing the most repulsive anti-Semitism, the most compulsive racism and this idea
and
that
misogyny.
you can just deport anybody and homophobia. You can just deport anybody who isn't called Smith. It's absurd.
It's absurd. I have had so many people. I mean, by the way, anyone watching this who's a big fan of the very online right who now regard me as enemy number one, don't even try and troll me on X because I've given it up for Lent. So enjoy yourself. I'm not going to be there for 40 days. But I have had so many people, Philip, I'm not going to name names and name who, because I don't want them to receive the sort of horrible pile-on that I just have, it was disgusting. I've got a thick skin, and what I know is when you've called people out, when you've exposed them, you've done a good thing. It doesn't matter the backlash. They exposed themselves. They sat there, I asked clear questions, they answered them, and now they're wanting to come back against me and tell me I was doing my job as a journalist, okay? They're the ones who said the things they said. But I've had loads of people reach out to me, big names in the world of, you know, right-wingery, let's say, who names that the audience would know. And I'm not talking about 2 or 3 people. I'm talking about 10, 15 people who aren't speaking to each other, who've all independently got in touch with me. Some of them are saying we're terrified by this rise in ethno-nationalism. There's something really dark about how emboldened people are now. Other people are saying I've also been on the receiving end of their vile threats and abuse. And there are people involved in this who are really, you know, with some very ugly sentiments. And so that has given me a sense of solace because I felt kind of out there on my own for a while. But what is shocking me is there's still people, despite the rhetoric that they can see being put online, and how far it's now gone. How far it's now gone. You know, I'm sorry, but I have seen social media posts put up by Rupert Lowe using words like cockroaches and parasites. Think what you like about mass immigration, but come on, this isn't Rwanda. What are you doing? Yeah. How can anybody look at that, see it, and think it's okay? So this is what I'm saying. We know the UK faces massive problems. This Gail situation exposes that. We know there are big unintegrated communities. We know there is Islamists. We know we've got a weak government not doing anything about it. But what I don't want to see is the same level of ugliness being generated as a counterforce. Because when you start saying things like millions must go at any cost, those who don't integrate must go at any cost, who? Who's deciding who's integrated or not? You're knocking on houses door to door like the Green Party in Bristol saying, do you know the words of the national anthem? Otherwise we're dragging you into a Hercules and dropping you, you know, in some far-flung island. Like, how are these things prosecuted? Okay? And that's what I want to know, because we're living in such a febrile time. What we cannot risk, and I think there are people out there, I'm sorry, I think there are people out there bruising for some sort of civil unrest. I think there are people salivating at the prospect who want that. And I'd say be careful what you wish for, because I have worked in third world countries where they have post-election violence as a result of ethno-national politics. And it's not funny. It's not funny when people are being stabbed in the street. It's not okay. It's not what we should ever wish for.
It's really not funny when you're having your windows smashed and people are invading your home, raping people and murdering people, because that happens in civil war. Okay, I think one of the problems here is that the many people who are doing this live their lives online. Yeah. They don't live in the real world. They have no, as you talked before again about this connection between the past and your connection to your grandparents and the Holocaust, that very real connection for people of our, I'm older than you, but we're of the same generation, of our age. We remember that connection. The problem I've got with the right at the moment, and I'm a philosophical conservative. I've always been attracted to conservative thought because it's pragmatic. It's not riddled with identity politics. And it isn't a slave to concepts and theories. But what's happening with the right at the moment is they are aping the left. It is becoming a kind of a version of left-wing infighting, and the vitriol and cruelty and horribleness is something that I want to turn my back on.
Right, the bullying, the wanting to silence people online by ganging up on them, the sort of doxing of people. When identity and the language being used, I'm sorry, like I said, parasite, cockroach, not okay. Whatever your political views, not okay. Because what you're doing is you're stoking up a load of young men who have every right to feel disenfranchised, ignored, let down, worried about their futures, looking at the future, going, am I going to be a minority in my own country? Okay, we understand that. But if you're stoking them up with extreme language and at the same time saying that the one political party they might be able to vote for that might represent them is part of controlled opposition, so you're not giving a democratic solution to these people. Instead, you're firing them all up and basically telling them you're going to have to take matters into your own hands. That is so reckless. It is so reckless.
It's just so stupid, but it's also quite embarrassing because what we've got on the right now, when I started being involved in commentary and politics, we had a kind of general consensus and general agreement. The far right lunatics weren't part of what we are, right? And now they've been co-opted. Now they are emboldened. And what we've got is a kind of People's Front of Judea, you know, right-wing version of your party in a way.
Yeah. Not your party is what I've been calling it.
But not only is it quite scary, and the kinds of people that are coalescing around this kind of stuff, it's actually quite embarrassing as well. I'm really embarrassed with it because, and this is, I suppose this is the key point that I'll finish with. There is a real danger here that we are going to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Philip, that's the end of the first hour. Very good to have your company. Thank you so much. Thank you a little bit for having my back. I felt a bit alone in the world the last 48 hours.